I know you can't see me. You can't see me. But I'm smiling. I'm smiling from ear to ear. I got a big, giant cheese grin on my face. And I'm going to tell you why. Welcome to the SledgeHammer Wrestling Show. Thank you for tuning in. So I'm smiling because I've been trying something different here. And I think I discovered the secret to really enjoying what they're giving us right now. And what you got to do, everybody, you got to turn off your brain. All of you real wrestling fans know that we know too much, especially now in the information age where everything's put out there. We fought so hard for so long to find out anything we could, any news, any rumors, anything. It was, you bought the magazines back then, there was no internet. It's very hard to dig up anything at all. But now that we live in an age where everything is around us, at our fingertips, at our disposal, total knowledge, with a simple login name and a password, you can get pretty much anything you want on the internet. You gotta turn that all off, and essentially what you gotta do is revert to being 8 years old. Be 8 years old in your head. Pretend that you do not know the inner workings of the company. Pretend that you don't know Vince McMahon really owns everything. Pretend that you don't know shit. That's what you gotta do. And then if you sit back and watch this through the eyes of the majority of the people, like the people in the audience, who are maybe newer wrestling fans or young kids that are just discovering it, or I don't know. Just something about erasing all that information while I was watching Raw and just not giving a shit. I don't care. I'm going to go in this with zero expectations because all they do is drop the ball. I'm not going to hold them to my standard, and maybe it'll work. And you know what? It worked with Backlash. I took a step back, and they gave me a great show. It was not a fantastic, world-ending type of thing, but it was a great show, especially in comparison to what we had been given and are continued to be given as a television product. Backlash stood out, and the kudos fly towards the WWE for that whole entire event. It was a great pay-per-view. This Raw, and a few of the matches on this Raw, suffered tremendously from coming off the heels of that night. And real quickly, while we're on that topic, it's a little strange to me to not be able to get satisfaction, so to speak, the night immediately after a pay-per-view. Wrestling fans that have been watching for as long as some of us have been are almost programmed to anticipate all of the needed results from whatever happened on the pay-per-view Sunday to be brought to light on Monday. If somebody was injured, if somebody was hurt, if somebody was in an incredible match and the storyline needed to be showcased and whatever, we are programmed and we are used to Sunday night's the pay-per-view, Monday night's Raw, where we are going to continue or wrap up any loose ends from this Sunday night pay-per-view show. With this brand split thing and SmackDown now being on Tuesday, the only good thing I can say about it really is thank God that it's no longer on Thursday. Because there's almost like an unfinished feeling within me. Like I cannot, my inner wrestling clock is off. Like I have all of this hanging in the air from SmackDown, and when I'm used to unloading it on Monday night, I'm getting something completely different, something, all new storylines, all different phases, and you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you come off such a hot show like that, and you're used to following it up with what you just seen, it's just a little awkward to me. like I said, the inner clock is off, and I need to put some of these SmackDown things to rest in my head. But we will get to that on tomorrow's podcast for the SmackDown review. So, as I said, we're going to get into it through the eyes almost of an 8-year-old. But I am going to give you my insight. It's going to come across maybe a little more positive than some of you might have looked at things. But that's my mission. I want to try to have fun with this. I don't just always want to constantly be so down on the product. So I detached my reasoning, my expectation of logic, and I just sat down to watch some wrestling. And I ended up enjoying the show. And here's the thing about the show. It was neither good nor bad, which says a lot. And what I mean by that is that we had a lot of great talent on the show. In interview segments, we had some pretty good matches that probably shouldn't have been booked for Raw, and that you're kind of giving away pay-per-view stuff for free on Raw, or, you know, the end result at the Clash of Champions is going to really be the key to whether or not this really was a great Raw or not. But this Raw just kind of coasted on the storylines a little bit that they're trying to lead into. So it all in all, if you look at the big picture, they almost kind of took a step back because you had Monday Night Football coming back. It's like they knew they were going to take a hit no matter what they did, so why are we going to throw the big stuff out there? Let's just do some very basic stuff, some very cool segments. We'll give Kevin Owens some time. We'll give Sami Zayn some screen time with Jericho. We'll give Kevin Owens the main event with Roman Reigns. We'll do whatever we got planned there. We'll get to that later. And I'm sure when you're looking at it on paper and you're not thinking outside the box because you don't want to do anything that big because your fan base is kind of split up, you stay inside the box. And you play with your toys that you have in your toy box in the way you always played with them, and you don't really take any risks. And that's my problem with this show in a nutshell. They didn't take any chances. They played it very safe with all the choices that they made, and it was kind of predictable. You know, as soon as everything set itself up, you almost already knew what was going to happen. But, as I said, looking at it, taking all of that out of the equation, and if we just look at it match by match for what it is, it was not a bad show either. So, let's get into this show as it started off with the women, as seems to be the trend of late no matter what show. We're just going to start it off with the women and get that out of the way as soon as possible. I don't necessarily agree with that, but, you know, that's WWE. It's what they're going to do. It's a formula, I guess, that they think works. Maybe they think it's a way to show that they're featuring the women because, oh, they're opening the show with the girls. This must be important. But it's not. It's not. It's just the same old song and dance. But when we got to the wrestling part of it, we had a great match to watch. Sasha and Bayley can wrestle all night. They did a very good job. The only kink in the entire match was Piggy Brooks. Yes, Miss Piggy herself of the WWE, Dana Brooke. We all know, if we listened to me before, that she is like the number 2 most hated woman in the entire world. To me, I just don't get her. I don't like her voice. I don't like her appearance. I don't like anything about her. I don't like her association with Charlotte. It just needs to come to an end. She doesn't wrestle well. She doesn't move well in the ring. But this match, she didn't do so bad. She didn't do good, just like Raw in itself. Dana Brooke was not good, but she wasn't as bad as she usually is, and I would give that credit to Sasha and Bayley, hands down, because like I said about so many other people, those two girls, they could wrestle a rock. Not the rock, a rock, like a literal rock from your backyard. And that would essentially be more entertaining than watching anything that Dana Brooke has to do in the ring. But, staying positive, trying to stay positive, the match was very good. The finish wasn't great, because I'm not sure if that's the way it was supposed to be. I'm judging by the camera angle that this was completely intentional. The double pin, all 4 shoulders to the mat. had to be on purpose. I'm sure we're going to hear more about it. We got one more week of Raw before Clash of Champions. They're probably going to find some way to get Bayley either into the match or have her set up to be the first opponent after the match, but somehow Bayley's got to make a stink about this, or else it's just going to be swept under the rug. And if it was swept under the rug, my firm belief is that it was not supposed to happen, and that Sasha maybe over-rotated just a little too much, and her shoulders ended up down on the mat as well. But she was supposed to win that match. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. Like I said, Sasha and Bayley, always entertaining. They didn't do anything tremendous, but there were a couple of great spots. The attempt at the double knee stomp in the corner by Sasha was pretty impressive. Bayley got out of the way pretty quickly. There was a lot of good spots in this match, and I was not disappointed with the wrestling, except that my eyes had to view Miss Piggy, Dana Brooke. It just never is pleasant. But with that aside, it wasn't too bad. We came after that match. Sasha Banks declared the winner. We are treated again to Dana Brooke backstage crying about being sorry to Charlotte, and I was very upset here because I thought they were gonna kill this angle. When Dana Brooke smacked her in the face in the ring, I thought it was done, and unfortunately, no. She's just gonna go right back to being a little jerk off for Charlotte, and it's gonna annoy the hell out of me. But moving on, we went to see Enzo and Cass. Ended up confronting the Shining Stars in the back. Another wasted amount of my time, except for Enzo. He just makes me laugh. Doesn't matter what he does. They're over. They're over as fuck, everybody. These guys can do anything. It's going to be great. It's going to be entertaining. Everybody's going to love it. The crowd's going to jump on it. He can come out in his grandma's shorts with the leopard print. Enzo can do anything he wants. He could have his hair look like a fountain. He could put anything he wants all over himself. Doesn't matter. How you doing? He's here to stay. Big Cass is here to stay. So, all this interaction with the Shining Stars, who everybody's complaining that they suck, this is all to get them over. We need more tag teams. We need bad tag teams for Enzo and Cass to fight. And if Enzo and Cass were to just come out, even in a singles match, and just decimate these two, then why do we care? Why do we care? We have no reason to want to see them beat the Shining Stars, because the Shining Stars are nobody. So yeah, they're trying to make them somebody. But this travel agent shit has just got to go. I don't like this timeshare thing. It's annoying. It's very annoying to me. It's almost like they're watching too much other stuff and trying to incorporate other comedies stuff into their show. I've seen the timeshare thing before. You guys know what I'm talking about. At least some of you do. We know timeshare comedy. And if they're watching that, they need to stop and start concentrating on what the hell they're doing on their own jobs. Because it's not really coming off the way you guys think it is. So there's this confrontation between the two teams in the back. They announce that they're going to have the one-on-one later on. We're going to see them fight later. Who cares? It'll be great to see Enzo come out and do his thing. Everybody will spell soft and we'll all say, how you doing? And then, it's great. And we'll get to what happens there a little later on in the show as well. That is followed up with a much better segment for my eyes and ears as Kevin Owens gets interviewed by Tom Phillips. And he's there to reassure him that he's going to defeat Roman Reigns in the main event. As he leaves, Jericho comes in. And now it really gets good. Jericho announces his guest on the highlight reel is Sami Zayn. Jericho says he's going to expose Sami Zayn for what he really is. And do you know what that is, Felipe? Phillips goes on to try to say a stupid and Chris Jericho interrupts him. No! He's a stupid idiot. Chris Jericho just never disappoints. Never ever. He has me crying in tears lately. His character is going to be maybe the biggest and best entertainer. He has changed gimmicks, characters, images so many times, and his longevity is rivaled maybe only by The Undertaker. Chris Jericho, man, I hope he never goes away. we get another Bo Dallas match against another nobody guy. He goes in there and just beats him down, squashes him up. I like his new little poetry at the beginning, and I really enjoyed this week's where he was like, I should have said this long ago, but only I can believe in Bo. Like this, I hope that this is more than just pushing him to face Bin Wang for the WWE in China and making him look relevant to the Chinese if they watch the TV product. I hope it's more than that, and I hope they're really maybe going to get behind him. He's actually a much more successful wrestler as far as win-loss goes than his brother Bray Wyatt, which is absolutely fucking atrocious. It is just the worst thing I could even say. I hate even saying it. I mean, I love both the guys, don't get me wrong, but Bray Wyatt is, as I've said many times, is so immensely more talented than Bo Dallas, but he seems to be getting a little bit more respect from WWE Creative, even after his little drunken incident in the Chicago airport a few days ago. Chris Jericho's highlight reel with special guest Kevin Owens' former best friend Sami Zayn. Zayn and Jericho exchanged insults, but Zayn would take the barbs to the next level when he tells Jericho that he's been relegated to being Owens' bitch. That was great. Jericho then, very amusingly, says, I'm surprised you don't have Kevin Owens' new number. Let me show you. I got it. And then bashes Sami Zayn in the head. This was a great highlight reel. There has not been a highlight reel like this in a long time. Usually Chris Jericho just stands there and panders to the crowd or just runs down, and then we get this whole mishmash in the end. This was good. This was classic. It almost felt like a Piper's Pit or something like that. It really meant something because of the relationship between all three men, Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, respectively. Finally, we get back to some wrestling after that, but unfortunately, it's the Cesaro-Sheamus Best of 7. And don't even get me started on them having this match somewhere else where Cesaro eventually got his first win. They didn't air it on the network even as a special, really? You put all these stupid things on the network, but you don't put something like that. That is a prime example for where the network could have been launched or even, advertised like, oh, only on the WWE Network, exclusively. Match 5, live on the WWE Network as it happens. That's exactly what they should have done. Just for that one match. They didn't have to show the whole house show, but a match of that importance should have taken precedence enough that it should have been aired, at least to the subscribers of the network, if it's not going to be on public television. My biggest gripe with match 4, where Cesaro picks up his first win in the series, but match 5 was not that great either. I do not understand why they're not adding stipulations, trying to change it up. These are just going to be 7 straight up wrestling matches where we're going to see them keep doing the same things over and over. And what's with all the tape on Cesaro? Is that how you're going to sell injuries all the time? Every time you get an injury, you're going to put some tape on it? You're starting to look like a goddamn road sign. Remember when Owen Hart used to come out and look like he was caution tape? That's starting to be Cesaro. It's getting a little annoying. Enough with the tape, monkey boy. Will you stop it? Just get out there and wrestle. Sell your injury through your acting, not through your athletic tape. So he goes through this match, he keeps selling the back injury, but he ends up getting a surprise roll-up and cheats to win, which makes no sense because he's the good guy in here, and he took the advantage in cheating to win. And why? Because he's hurt. He can't beat Sheamus with a clean 1-2-3 after Sheamus just went 3-0 on this guy. And what is this going to eventually do to Sheamus anyway? If he ends up losing this thing and Cesaro ends up winning, he's lost 4 matches in a row. And important matches now. He becomes the guy that can't close out the big one. I don't know where they're going with this. I don't like it that much. It's not doing what I thought it was going to do. They're not changing anything up during the matches. It's not clicking the way I said it wasn't going to click. And it's boring. This was a terrible part of the show. I really, really hated it. I wish they made medical tape for my eyes.
Boring.
But they don't. So Cesaro gets the match 5 win. The series is now 3-2 in favor of Sheamus, and we have to watch this again. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Mick Foley is approached by Seth Rollins, who questions his integrity, claiming that Mick is still in Stephanie's pocket. Foley gets pissed off about this, but Rollins calmly, cool and collectively calls him a fool before walking out on the GM. Nia Jax absolutely destroys Alicia Fox. She nearly killed her, if you ask me. And I enjoyed this segment. A lot of people got down on it because it's just more of the same shit. Her just beating up on somebody 1/3 her size that she could eat like a pretzel. But this was not just to show Nia's power. This was to show how vicious and dangerous she really truly is. Where, all of these girls were just opponents, but Alicia Fox pissed her off. And this is what happens to you when you piss off Nia Jax, and she needs to be elevated up almost immediately, like maybe right after Clash of Champions. Have her maybe get involved in the end result, try to screw somebody over. Get her fighting those girls, because this stuff, yes, it has run its course. As entertaining as it was to see her flipping Alicia like a damn flapjack back and forth across the ring into the barricades, and then through the barricade, it was something special to watch, and I enjoyed it very much. But I want it to come to an end, and I want Nia Jax to have some good, solid, competitive matches that I know she and the other girls are capable of having with her. Anderson and Gallows versus the New Day. The whole segment right before the beginning was good. Again, I enjoy the New Day shtick. It entertains me, it tickles my fancy, it lights my unicorn horn. It's just feel good stuff. So again, turning your brain off, you allow this into your life, you'll be better for it. They referenced the week before in the worst segment of all time when Gallows and Anderson did the old day, and they said they burned the footage, which is absolutely what I hope happened in reality, and that nobody ever has to watch that again, and that they never ever show it to us again, because it made a mockery not of the New Day, but of Gallows and Anderson. It was terrible stuff. And they're pretty much coming out there saying, leave the entertainment to us. And then Gallows and Anderson would come out for this match, which should have happened at the Clash of Champions, which probably will have a rematch of the Clash of Champions, but this match should not have been booked. This should have been a segment. Gallows and Anderson should have came out, beat them down, and walked away. But instead we had a match, and Gallows and Anderson defeat the New Day in what was a pretty good match, especially for Raw, as of late. Lots of high-flying stuff, lots of smash-mouth stuff, some good outside work, some good in-ring work. Nothing really to complain about match-wise. Story-wise, we're not going to get started. Like I said, remaining positive. But it's hard to remain positive sometimes when the next person to hit my TV screen is Roman Reigns. He has a small little interview with Tom Phillips, which the only thing I really heard him say was, yes sir, which was just fucking stupid. Like, can you make yourself even worse? Like, don't let him speak. He should have stared him in the face, got into his face maybe, said not one word, turned around and walked away. Would have been much more effective than him trying to be all cool, because you're not cool. And then again, the positivity train keeps rolling as hard as I can push it, because we have the first appearance since the brand split of Jack Swagger, who was full of potential about 10 years ago when he first showed up. And just like everybody else, he reached a certain point and he got big and everybody was getting behind him, and you pulled him away. And that was never more evident here, because Jinder Mahal came out to crickets. And then Jack Swagger came out and everybody was ready to salute the We the People. And the people in the crowd did it. And what did we get? we get Jinder Mahal after losing week after week after week, comes out of nowhere with this new little gimmick, which might be something if developed right, but right now it's just making me want to turn off my TV. I don't want to see him do his little stupid hand thing. But the worst part about it is that this guy, with this losing streak and this now new gimmick, you're telling me this is enough, and a swinging reverse neck breaker is enough to defeat a former two-time World Heavyweight Champion, a former World Tag Team Champion, a United States Champion, an Intercontinental Champion, like Jack Swagger? It angers me so much that I can't even say my words, you guys. If you heard that fumbling just before, I meant to say Intercontinental Champion, but it just was like because I get annoyed. Because it's not that Jack Swagger's such a great wrestler, it's that his potential was there then, and he should be like one of the biggest wrestlers you have right now. He was JR's last pick. And what did you do with him? Is that the reason why you're shitting on him for all these years? Because he's a JR guy? Maybe the last of the JR guys? Come on. Terrible. Jinder Mahal beats Jack Swagger. Poor guy. And then they ask him about his contract, and he's got no answer. And my only hope is that maybe he does go to SmackDown and change it up again. Maybe he'll find Zeb and start up the American thing again. Maybe find a new partner that's not Alberto Del Rio, obviously, and not Cesaro, but maybe try to get some new kid over and make him a real American and get that going. Even if you make it a good guy thing, don't make it so fucking racist. Make it something fun so that the people can get behind it. I don't know. Then we had Enzo versus Epico. You know, nothing special, just a solid match. Enzo did his thing, did a lot more dancing than fighting, but not that bad of a match. The fun part was watching the end, which I almost seen happening, because when you do the suplex over the top rope to the inside, and there's a friend of the other guy on the outside, 9 out of 10 times they're going to pull your leg out from under you. Just ask Bobby the Brain Heenan, he does it all the time. Jimmy Hart's done it all the time. It's just a nod to a management tactic that used to get their client the victory. I thought it was good. I think it's a great way to highlight these guys. They need to be made to look like something that matters. And if they continue to get one up on Enzo and Kaz, they're going to matter. And people are going to care when Enzo and Kaz fight the Shining Stars, because they're going to want them to finally exact their revenge. But this match, Epico gets the win via some dirty tactics of the Shining Stars. And we move along. We had another great segment of mic work between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. And my favorite part of the whole thing was when he just totally changed Seth Rollins' slogan to rebuilt, redesigned, replaced. Probably Kevin Owens' best line this year, hands down. I broke out laughing on the couch at that line. Again, as you can see, we're not really talking a lot about wrestling. We're talking a lot about story, and that's, I do complain that they never do story, so I'm not going to poo-poo it. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to sit here brainless and watch and listen, and I ended up enjoying the entire segment. And Mick Foley comes in and breaks it up, and this is the most important part, warning Seth Rollins to not get involved in the main event. And if he does it, there will be repercussions. Which brings us to the main event. Kevin Owens, the WWE Universal Champion, versus Roman Reigns. If Roman Reigns wins, he gets to be part of the championship match at Clash of Champions. They totally tricked everybody with this match. Now let me just start by saying, even though this match was Roman Reigns, I'm going to give him a slight nod. This perhaps was the best outing I've seen from Roman Reigns in at least the last 6 months. It wasn't anything to rave about, but there was not really much for me to shit on. So, good for you, Roman Reigns. You had a good match. And as I like to do, I will give most of the credit to the man on the other side, because without him, you probably wouldn't have been able to pull off such a good match. Kevin Owens is talented enough for the two of them to make that main event what it was. It was back and forth, and it was a nail biter at one point because Seth Rollins did come out and attack Kevin Owens, causing Kevin Owens to get the win and keeping Roman Reigns out of the match anyway, or so he thought. Because when the dust would settle, Mick Foley would come out, start screaming in his face, getting on top of him, telling him, we got to go to the back and talk about this. I didn't like that. I was hoping he was just going to give us some kind of finality there. And I'm like, go to the back and talk. When do we do that in wrestling? We don't just go to the back and talk. But then he turns around and orders the referee to restart the match. And now I'm terrified that the end of this match is going to have Roman Reigns' hands raised in victory. But much to my delight, we finally got Rusev to get off of Lana, who they've apparently probably been humping silly for the last 30 days, and who takes a 30-day honeymoon, really? And how many times did they get married? Like 6? I mean, come on, let's go. Those boobs are yours. You probably paid for them. You could play with them after the show. Get back here, because with him gone, Roman Reigns stays in the main event, and much to my surprise, he got out of his wedding bed, out of Lana, and into the ring to try to cost Roman Reigns this match, and successfully did. He came out and distracted Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns lands a Superman punch, only to turn around and get hit with a pop-up powerbomb. Kevin Owens gets the win, keeps the match one-on-one between him and Seth Rollins at Clash of Champions for the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns then gets further decimated by Rusev. This match goes off the air with Roman writhing in pain in the Accolade, Rusev like a madman, wrenching his back, trying to break it. And here's one little thing about this. I'm afraid of what's going to happen, because you can hear as the show is going off the air, the crowd's chanting for Rusev, because as we know, everywhere they go, the crowd's anti-Roman. And the weird thing that's going to happen here, and I think you're going to see it at the Clash, because they're going to end up fighting each other for the United States Championship. And now that Rusev has one-upped Roman here, I think he'll probably end up winning the championship from him at the Clash. But you have the strange thing going on where the heel Rusev is getting support, not only because he's not Roman Reigns and because Roman Reigns is his opponent, but because you show me one man who truly loves the person he's with that wouldn't want to defend Harana, that would not react that way. If somebody ever made me look like a punk in front of my wife, I wouldn't even want to look her in the eyes until I set things right and showed her that he don't know what he's talking about. He needs to be scared of me. I'm going to fuck him up. And that's what Rusev did. And what guy cannot relate to that? It's not just about the championship anymore. It's about the honor of his relationship, the honor of his marriage, the honor of his wife, the honor of himself, his self-respect as a man. So you get behind guys like that. It's not the way it was back in the fucking 70s, guys. Like, we don't just automatically think black and white. A lot of people are like, yeah, what he did is messed up. But that's what I would do. Isn't that what you would do? Certainly what I would do. I would find the first opportunity I could to screw over the guy that made me look like a punk. And then, knowing that I'm going to follow it up with making him look like a punk later on at the Clash of Champions. Again. So that's my one little sidebar on that match. But all in all, as you can see, a great show. I still said some rough things about it here and there. But it was a great show. It was entertaining. Detached. If I plug back in, and we're already over a half hour here, so we're not going to do that, because if I do, that whole review would have been completely different. I can tear the show apart on so many levels, but I want to enjoy it. I want to stay in my wrestling pants and my wrestling boots and put on my wrestling brain when I have to, like when I'm doing this podcast, and leave my wrestling brain outside my head and just watch as a wrestling fan. Because sometimes, guys, when you care about something a little too much and you love it too hard, you are too hard on it. So sometimes it's a little helpful to just take a little step back and say to yourself, remember when I was 10 and I couldn't wait to watch this stuff? You know, that's because you didn't know nothing. So pretend you don't know nothing. Keep on watching. I'm going to pretend I don't know nothing tomorrow when I'm about to watch SmackDown. Even though I already know everything I know from Backlash, I'm going to sit there and go, they're probably going to mess it up. So I'm going to sit here and think nothing company-wise, nothing storyline-wise. I'm just going to try to absorb it for what it is. And then you guys and I can talk about it together the next day. And if we need to tear it apart, we certainly will. I want to thank you guys for joining me again. Please hit that like button. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube. I'm Nick Nightmare. This has been the SledgeHammer Wrestling Show's Raw review for September 12th, 2016. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow for SmackDown. Have a good one.